Standing Order 36, Deputy Mayor Lou MacDonald, please.
Taoiseach, the ongoing controversy at RTE serves no one well, least of all the public who rely on RTE as a source of factual and accurate news and current affairs. It's damaging to trust in public broadcasting that the fallout from what you have described as a culture of arrogance and entitlement at RTE continues to play out. And Taoiseach, it's an issue that's not going away because it underlines the fact that there's one rule for those in privileged positions and another for ordinary people. We see on the one hand that you can be an RTE executive, walk away from your job and pocket hundreds of thousands of euros on the way out the door. But if you are a nurse, a teacher, if you work in retail or hospitality and you walk off the job, you wouldn't be entitled to a penny. Ach más altrahu múnseorhu no má obriantu is siopa no ostan agus má hiúlantu a odaquid post ni aiki tu pengen. You wouldn't even be entitled to a social welfare payment. But if you're a well-connected RTE executive, well then that's a different story. Taoiseach, we've heard a lot of bluster from you and others in government about accountability, but we have seen none in 8 months that this debacle has played its way out. So Taoiseach, instead of sound bites, what we need to hear from government is what does accountability look like? When will there be consequences for those who have breached the public trust and those who have played fast and loose with taxpayers' money? As long as this saga continues, people are voting with their feet. And hundreds of thousands choose not to pay the TV licence. And Taoiseach, every day that you delay in making a decision on this matter, many more join them, with thousands then due to be dragged through the courts. But where's the accountability from those in RTE? Every time someone in government is asked about this, they say that they're not responsible, that it's someone else's problem. But if you're not ultimately responsible for cleaning up this mess, well then who is? Yesterday we learned that the Minister for Media had her first briefing on severance packages at RTE, despite the findings of the McCann-Fitzgerald report emerging 3 weeks ago. Your government are behind the curve on every twist and turn of this debacle. Taoiseach, what will be done to ensure that all details of severance packages to top executives at RTE are published immediately? What steps will be taken to ensure that this never happens again? Because this is public money, Taoiseach, and public money must be accounted for properly. That's RTE's job. But there must be adequate oversight. That's the government's job. That's your job. I believe that RTE must be brought back under the remit of the Comptroller and Auditor General, as was the case for many, many years. Do you support this proposal, Taoiseach? Will it happen? Government has to move on this. You also have to tackle the long-term issue of funding RTE and ensuring that those funds are managed properly. Taoiseach, will you commit to the implementation of all the recommendations of the Future of Media Commission? Will you abolish the TV licence once and for all? We now, Taoiseach, need clarity from government on these pressing matters.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And just at the outset, I might take this opportunity to recall the passing of Michael O'Riordan, and I know Michael O'Regan rather, and I know his friends and colleagues, and indeed the people of Kerry who'd be well familiar with the Dáil Hour on the radio, will mourn his loss. And I understand there'll be a moment of silence at the end of the leaders' questions, just to pay our respects to him and his family and colleagues. In relation to the Deputy's question, as I said before, I believe we need full information and clarity from RTE. The drip feed of revelations, which has been happening for far too long, is now seriously damaging an important organisation which has a pivotal role in our democracy and our national cultural identity. Minister Martin met with the RTE chairperson and the DG yesterday to discuss the severance payments, or rather the exit payments, and she's been very clear, as have I, that we need maximum possible clarity and transparency on all these matters urgently. In re-emphasising the need for maximum transparency, Minister Martin has also received assurances from RTE that they will reassess the future use of confidentiality agreements and the capping of severance packages for senior executives. While transparency must be lawful and must have regard for individuals' employment and privacy rights, the DG has committed to seeking updated legal advice, and is committed to making as much information available as is permissible and publicly available, as is permissible publicly available. He's committed to providing an update in respect of this as soon as possible, and I urge him to do so. While the substantive legal advice is waited, the DG did provide some further clarity with regard to departures of a number of former staff yesterday evening. He's confirmed that he felt a negotiated process to exit an individual from the organisation was needed in the context, and there were no grounds to dismiss the person, but agreement that the interests of our team might be best served if the individual concerned was to leave voluntary. Both parties received legal advice on this, and the DG has stated his view that this may have had a significantly increased cost to RTE were a dismissal to have been attempted. RTE are, in accordance with the provisions of the Broadcasting Act, independent in their pursuit of their statutory objectives, and this includes all operational matters such as HR. These severance agreements are not arrangements that required any government approval or notice, and this is a standard practice for semi-states as opposed to government departments or state agencies. RTE's annual and regular accounts disclose aggregate transactions with regard to senior management, but no detail is given. The accounts are published and laid before the Houses of the Oireachtas and are there to be interrogated by members of both Houses, which of course is done, both the PSC and the Media Committee. Two expert advisory committees are going to make recommendations looking at the governance, and we await their recommendations on possible legislative changes that might be necessary and proportionate to increase accountability while respecting the principle of the independence of media. I don't intend to preempt what these reports might recommend, but I want to note that Minister Martin is committed to implementing the changes recommended so that we can ensure better governance, greater transparency and try to rebuild trust. What they have to say on the role of CNAG will also be important, and we will take on board any recommendations in this regard. I understand the Minister expects to receive an update from the expert advisory committees later this week on their progress and the status of the reports in respect of the finalisation of the publication.
Thank you, and Taoiseach, I join with you in saluting the memory of Michael O'Regan, a gentleman, a truly fine and fair professional, and our thoughts are with him and with his family. Yesterday, Gorev Anam Deilish. Taoiseach, this scandal around RTE has gone on now for months. It's gone on since last summer, and you still talk about it as though you were some detached, inconsequential observer. You still can't give straight, concrete answers in respect of accountability, in respect of full disclosure of information. And you know, it's not at this point good enough for the Director General of RTE, or indeed for yourself as head of government, to continue to dilly-dally and delay on this matter. If RTE is guilty of drip-feeding information, which they are, and you have called out, well, equally, you are guilty of gross indecision and slowness, and sometimes an alarming but telling lack of curiosity in the questions that you've put to RTE. So can I say to you that we now need pace? We need to know from you precisely when we will have all of the information required, exactly how you intend to ensure that we don't have a repeat of this behaviour. And I put it to you again, as you await now another expert committee report. You have one sitting on your desk for the past 2 years. It recommends abolition of the television licence. Could you please take a decision on that matter without further delay?
Deputy. Minister Martin met the Director General on the day the McCann report was published, and that report dealt with the voluntary redundancy schemes of 2017 and 2020. Yesterday's meeting between the Minister, the DG and the Chairperson was in relation to their termination packages, and we need all transparency in relation to this. to the extent that is possible within the law. In relation to the Future of Media Commission, Deputy, there are a lot of recommendations in the report, very good ones. We're implementing them all. There's one outstanding that we still need to make a decision on, and that relates to the abolition of the TV licence. As you know, the Future of the Media Commission recommended Exchequer funding. There is a real difficulty with that, Deputy, because Exchequer funding means that the government of the day would control how much money goes to RTE and the public service media. And I'm looking across at somebody who might be the Taoiseach in the next government, who's currently suing RTE and would have a huge conflict of interest. And people behind you who've sued RTE and taken a lot of money out of RTE, which was ultimately taxpayers' money, by the way, as you pointed out. And I think that's a real concern. We see all over the world, all over the Western world, democracies being undermined by governments that want to control the purse strings around the media, and that's a real concern that I would have if we were to go down that route. Yes, yes.
Leader Deputy Holly Kearns, please.
Margaret Ken Corla. I was very saddened to hear of the passing of Michael O'Regan at the weekend. He had a huge love and interest in politics, and on a personal level he was also very warm, humorous and kind. My condolences to him, his family, his friends and his colleagues. Taoiseach, the Children's Rights Alliance in their annual report card gave the government a D- for family homelessness. Child homelessness is up 55% since this government took office. We now have nearly 4,000 children growing up in emergency accommodation. There has been a 20% increase in family homelessness in the past year alone. How, 4 years into this government, are we still seeing so many lives devastated by homelessness? How is solving this crisis not the primary focus of your government? Homelessness has a hugely damaging impact on children's mental and physical health, which can last a lifetime. Children who are homeless are more likely to be bullied, they're less likely to see their friends, and they are twice as likely to be hospitalised. Real and lasting damage is being done to more and more children every day, every month, every year. And instead of moving heaven and earth to end child homelessness, the government withdrew one of the only measures to stop it. It lifted the no-fault eviction ban, knowing what the result would be: more children evicted into homelessness. The government did it anyway. Taoiseach, please don't tell us that you can't build homes overnight, because we've been listening to Fine Gael say that for more than a decade now. When your plan isn't working, you need to change it. But first, you have to admit that it isn't working. When you won't even do that, is it any wonder that people are losing hope? Taoiseach, there are solutions that could be adopted tomorrow if the political will were there. A return of the no-fault eviction ban, a rent freeze, a tax on vacancy with real teeth. Houses should not be lying idle in the middle of this housing disaster, but they are, all across the country. Instead of solutions to this crisis, all we get is constant spin. You say we've turned a corner and we've exceeded our targets, and simultaneously your government has failed to meet its social and affordable housing targets every year since you took office. That's the reality. And we don't yet know the complete figures for 2023, but you'd only reached 29% of your social housing targets by September, so it's not looking good. Taoiseach, did you meet your social and affordable housing targets last year? Is there any level of child homelessness that would prompt you to reintroduce the no-fault ban on evictions?
Thanks very much, Deputy. And I think you started off the question by referring to the annual report card that the Children's Rights Alliance produces in relation to government performance. It's an independent body and obviously issues this report card every year. But I think it might be useful for people to know that of the 16 measures that the Children's Rights Alliance rates the government on, our grades are up in 4 the same in 12 and not down in any. And I think it is important just to put that fact before the House. The impression you created would have someone outside believing that we got a fail grade, which would be dishonest politics, Deputy. What's here in front of me isn't something I'm delighted about, but the fact is, of the 16 measures that the Children's Rights Alliance looks at, our grades are up in 4, the same in 12, and have not gone down in any. So in the reform of the childcare system, we've gone from a B to an A. When it comes to free school books, we've gone from a B to an A. When it comes to children in special education getting an appropriate place, we've gone from a C to a B. When it comes to addressing food poverty in children, we've also gone from a C to a B. So I think overall, if you look at that objectively, it's a story of progress, not a story of going backwards. And that's not my view, that's the view of the Children's Rights Alliance. But as I'm sure they would say, not enough, not soon enough, and you need to do more. And obviously, I take that on board and agree that we need to do more. In terms of the particular issue of childhood homelessness, Deputy, as you know, there are many drivers of homelessness in our society. From your question, one would be led to believe that the main cause of homelessness was people being evicted from private rented accommodation. But again, that would be misleading. That's not the case. The main cause of homelessness in Ireland, unfortunately, is family breakdown. And no matter who's in government, it's very hard to reduce the number of families that are breaking down at any given time. That happens for all sorts of different reasons. And of course, there's an increasing spillover for migration as well. Over 40% of people now in emergency accommodation are not Irish citizens. And that, again, is something that's not particularly under control. Our objective where homelessness occurs is to make sure that it's rare, that it's short-lived, and that it's not repeated. And we do our best to make sure that if anybody experiences homelessness, that it's less than a few months, in a lot of cases less than 6 months, in most cases less than a year. But I absolutely appreciate that a few months can be a very long time in a child's life and can stick with them forever. And that's why we redouble our efforts in particular to reduce family homelessness. We've increased resources for prevention in particular, that's really important. And also we're ramping up the amount of social housing being built, more built last year than any year since the 1970s before either you or I were born. And we'll build even more this year. We don't have the exact numbers for last year yet, but we should have them in the next few weeks.
I think that's the kind of spin that I'm referring to when I say that people feel that sense of hopelessness, because you're talking about going from an A to a B and all of these different things. But like I said, child homelessness is up 55% since this government took office. So I think that's the main figure that you need to address. And look, on the eviction ban, Taoiseach, almost every single month since you've been in office, child homelessness has increased. The biggest decreases we've seen was while the eviction ban was in place. They're the facts, and you lifted it anyway. If you look at the numbers for the first 6 months prior to the eviction ban, child homelessness increased by 14.9%, and during the eviction ban, child homelessness actually decreased by 0.6%. Taoiseach, a large part of the problem in relation to housing is obviously that the targets have set us up for failure. So for a start, they're too low, and then you're failing to meet them. So they're nowhere near what we need to meet demand. According to the leak to the Irish Times, the Housing Commission report states that Ireland needs between 42,000 and 62,000 homes each year. The Minister has had this report since November 2022. Is the government going to publish that report? And yeah, actually just stick with one question so we try and get an answer to that.
Thanks, Deputy. I think it's a little bit of a stretch for you to accuse me of spin. You're quite the Social Democrat spin meister yourself. You're the one who brought up the Children's Rights Alliance report, not me. And you didn't acknowledge that of the 16 areas under which they assess us, our grades are up in 4, down in none. Of the 16, there are no fail grades, but one area where we're deemed unacceptable, and that relates to children in adult psychiatric institutions, and we absolutely take on board that criticism. In terms of the date for the report, Deputy, I don't have it, but I will check with Minister O'Brien and come back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you, Taoiseach. On behalf of the regional group now, Deputy Peter Fitzpatrick, please.
Thank you very much. Taoiseach, as you know, as from back to me is a surgery to remove a blood clot from an artery or vein. The procedure can restore blood flow to vital organs like your legs, arms, intestines, your kidneys, your brain, or other vital organs. A thrombectomy can also greatly reduce the risk of death or permanently disabled if performed properly. A thrombectomy must also perform within a matter of hours to prevent life or limb-threatening complications from occurring. Yet not all blood clots require intervention. Consider its impact on requiring patients. It would make perfect sense to fund this procedure. According to the Irish Heart Foundation, most stroke patients will die and suffer severe disabilities if the plug is pulled on a pledge to fund these vital stroke services. This warning comes after the Health Service Executive has done a U-turn on promises for funding to the National Stroke Strategy, thereby restricting life-saving services such as thrombectomy, while also increasing the risk of strokes units closure. The Minister for Health himself said last March that the stroke strategy will provide significant improvement in service delivery, with improved patient flow and efficiency in delivery of stroke services. However, just months later, it was being to be defunded, a failure to roll out a strategy that will cause lives without saving the health service a cent. Although the HSE has been allocated a huge budget of £23.5 billion for 2024, which represented an increase of 4.6% on last year's funding. Taoiseach, will you liaise with the Minister for Health to ensure that adequate funding is provided? It's very important that these services are saved. Taoiseach, it's very alarming when we look at the prediction up to 2035 is that strokes are going to increase by 60%. And 25% of people will survive if they get the proper services. Taoiseach, it's very important that we do invest on these people. Also, the home care packages. There's a lot of people in hospitals there that's looking to get rehabilitated and they've nowhere to go, and I think the care is very, very important. Taoiseach, as being a doctor, we all know that prevention is the best cure. Maybe I'm getting a bit older, but the amount of people I see from my day-to-day having strokes is unbelievable. Like even people with high cholesterol, the warning signs is right there at the moment, and it's very important that the Department of Health, it lets people know what the indications are. But all I'm asking for is that we need the funding, we also need the services. Your department rang me yesterday, and I told them exactly what I was going to speak about today. A few weeks ago there, I spoke about people having heart attacks. Like, your health is your wealth. So I'm just trying to say, Taoiseach, what is your plans going forward with the funding and also the services of the strokes? Thank you.
I just want to thank Deputy Fitzpatrick for raising the really, really important issue of stroke on leaders' questions. I know it's been raised before, but not for a long time. And we all know the extent to which stroke affects people and their families, people who have died as a result of stroke, and then also people who are surviving with the effects of stroke or are at risk of stroke themselves. We have a national stroke strategy which runs to 27, and that aims to modernise and reform our services in line with the Saointe Care policy and deal with the challenges facing Ireland from population ageing and the predicted increase in the total number of strokes across Europe, including Ireland. We're fully committed to making improvements and advances in stroke services, and we've allocated over £7 million to fund the strategy in the last two budgets. We're making real progress. The recently published Health at a Glance report showed that 30-day mortality after admission to a hospital for stroke per 100 admissions for people aged 45 years or over in 2021 stood at 6.3. That shows a decrease from 6.8 in 2019 and a decrease from 10.1 in 2011. So to cut a long story short, you're almost twice as likely to survive stroke today than you would have been in 2011. And that's considerable progress, I think. We also now rank 5th best out of 18 EU member states. And a comparison ranking for the same statistic over time shows that we're ranked 8th best of the participating EU member states in 2016 and 10th in 2011. So again, cutting a long story short, going from 10th place up to 5th place since 2011. So very considerable progress there. And my particular thanks to all of those involved in the stroke programme in primary care and in our hospitals for making those very real improvements possible. The expansion of the GP contract also includes opportunistic case finding of high blood pressure in the over 45-year-olds with a GMS or GP visit card. The contract is now in place and the service commenced this year. Opportunistic case finding is one strand of the HSE chronic disease management programme, and is for patients who GPs suspect may have an undiagnosed chronic disease or those at risk of developing one. High blood pressure is a key risk factor for developing a stroke, and this measure is a significant step towards the full implementation of the prevention pillar of the strategy. In terms of recruitment, funding for 25 staff was made available in Budget 2023 for the recruitment of consultants, nurses and health and social care professionals to implement the strategy. To date, 12 have been recruited, including 3 consultants in our specialist acute stroke units and our endovascular thrombectomy services. A speech and language therapist has also been recruited, and a total of 8 staff across a range of health and social care professions have been recruited to expand our early supported discharge team network, an evidence-based model of care proven to reduce hospital length of stay and provide more care in the community.
Taoiseach, I thank you for your response. Taoiseach, what I'm asking Taoiseach is just to make sure that we have the funding and the services going forward. In the Louth County Hospital, as the Minister knows, we've got a very good stroke unit there at the moment, and the people from the area, local area, are prevailing from it. But my problem at the moment is the prediction up as far as 2035 is a 60% increase in strokes. So to me, it's important that we start investing more money going forward. Like we've got 20 units already under severe strain at the moment and Minister, there's talk of some of these places not having enough staff and also not having enough funding. So I think it's very, very important that you look at the situation at the moment is. And as I said earlier on, Taoiseach, is the amount of people that I've known over the last number of months who have got strokes. And it's very important that when they go to their A&E or wherever they go, it's very important that they get the aftercare. Now, the situation is with the A&Es at the moment, they've been so overcrowded in that there. And I said that it's very important that when a person presents themselves might have a stroke, that it's very, very important that the right people at the hospitals are there. So the more stroke units, the more people that's involved in the strokes, that it's going to be better to save people. So, Taoiseach, I said again, please, can you make sure that the funding and the services go to stroke units? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And I just want to give you the absolute assurance that stroke care and stroke treatment is an area that we're going to continue to invest in and invest more in this year and indeed in the coming years. Somebody who has a stroke today in Ireland is 40% more likely to survive that stroke than they would have been in 2011. And since 2011, we've gone from 10th place to 5th place in the EU18. So this is one of the many areas where we see patient outcomes improving in Ireland and overtaking those in the European Union and indeed particularly in the United Kingdom. We still don't have enough patients who are accessing stroke care units, notwithstanding the number of additional units around the country. Our target is that 90% of stroke patients should be treated in a stroke care unit, and that's now sitting at about 70%, so a 20% gap there between where we are and what our target is. We have to make sure that we put the resources behind closing that gap, and we will.
Very much, Ceann Caller and Taoiseach. What I'm going to raise, I know, is a matter of great concern to you, to your Ministers for Health and also all of your government. Currently, St John of God's in Kerry supports adults and children with an intellectual disability. The breakdown is as follows in Kerry. Adults with intellectual disability, 230 adults attend residential and daycare services provisions throughout the county of Kerry. They attend 16 day services with facilities in their own communities in towns such as Castle Island, Killarglan, Kinmare, Dingle, Listowel and Tralee. People also travel in to attend a day service on the grounds of St Mary of the Angels. There is also 9 group homes facilities across Tralee and Killarglan. A further 10 apartments where people are supported to live in Tralee. 58 residents live in St Mary of the Angels facility in Beaufort, County Kerry, which is an excellent facility. Respite services for intellectual disability. 5 adults attend a respite service in Listowel. 50 children attend respite in Listowel and Beaufort. And there is 1 after-school service in Cahersiveen. Staff. In excess of 400 hard-working staff work in various facilities across County Kerry, supporting the men, women and children and their families. My question is, Taoiseach, this is a public service and it is incumbent on the government to maintain this service. Given that St John of God's Community Services have served notice to transfer, what guarantee can be given to the service users, their families and staff within those services that their services will be maintained in their current facilities and that staff employment will be secure into the future? This is so important, Taoiseach, because these are our most vulnerable in society. These are the people that we cherish and that we want to be minded and cared for. Since this announcement was made by St John of God's, and nobody can come along and say that they were surprised, and I did hear ministers in this government saying that they were shocked. I'd love to know what shocked them, because we all knew that there was a dispute going on over budgeting. We all knew that there was negotiations going on, and we all knew that that had broken down. So I can't understand how any government minister would be surprised at the announcement by St John of God's. I don't want to get into an argument over St John of God's or over the HSE funding. I don't want to blame government. I don't want anything like that. What I want to hear is a caring Taoiseach and a caring government coming out and saying that you're concerned over this announcement, that your priority, our priority, every one of us inside in this house, is the service users, their mums, their dads, their siblings, their grandparents. They're our priority. The budget will have to be sorted, of course, but our main aim is to protect those vulnerable people, whether it's physical or intellectual issues and disabilities they have. They're our priority.
Taoiseach.
Just want to thank the Deputy for raising the really important issue of St John of God Community Services, and thank you for contacting me directly about it during the week, as indeed did other deputies. I think everyone's aware here that there is a dispute between the HSE on one side and the board of St John of God's on the other. And both sides are putting the best foot forward, and both sides are negotiating hard so that we can come to a resolution. But what happens in that scenario is the service users and their families get caught in the middle. And it has caused a huge amount of anxiety and worry, unnecessary anxiety and worry for service users and for families that really should have been avoided. And I regret that it was not avoided. I can give the assurance to service users and their families that whatever happens, the services will be protected, even if that means the HSE having to take them over. But we would prefer that that not be the case, and that we are able to come to an agreement with St John of God's. The Chief Executive of the Health Service Executive, Bernard Gloucester, met with the board of St John of God's just on Sunday, and having listened to what they had to say, he wrote to them on Monday, just yesterday, setting out the current HSE funding that's available to them, and also how any deficit, how any gap can be closed. And he's asking them on foot of that to withdraw their notice to quit the service, and he's awaiting response from them. But like I say, I very much echo your comments here. This shouldn't be about the HSE or the board or the government or politics. This should be about the service users and their families who are now being subjected to unnecessary worry and unnecessary anxiety. I'm sure this can be resolved quite quickly between the HSE and the board of John of God's. But in a worst case scenario, and I hope that doesn't arise, the HSE can take over the services, and we can say to them that no matter what happens, those services will continue.
Did the financial situation, and having got people who would be far better at finances than I would be to look at it, this is a no-brainer, in that if we have to go providing that service ourselves through the HSE, it will inevitably cost the state a lot more than it would actually cost to come to an agreement with St John of God's. I'm not standing up here today advocating for St John of God's. I'm advocating for the service users. But I truthfully do believe, it's my personal opinion, that the right thing to do is to knock the heads together of the HSE, of government, of the purse strings, to ensure that St John of God's, they're poised to be the best people to give the service, because they're giving it as it is, and to allow for continuity of service and care. I think that the right thing to do would be to negotiate. Yes, of course, negotiate as hard as we can. We're trying to protect the state's money, but money shouldn't be the priority. It's the service users should be the priority. So I'd just plead with you, I'm very grateful for your response, but I'd plead with you to ensure that the heads will knock together to give a peace of mind to everybody involved.
Thank you very much, Deputy, and you can be sure that I, as Taoiseach, Minister Donnelly and Minister Rabbitte are working hard to make sure that this matter is resolved as soon as is possible. As I mentioned earlier, the CEO of the HSE met with the board on Sunday. A proposal has been made to St John of God's that includes additional funding and a pathway to deal with legacy deficits that have been incurred by the organisation. The HSE and St John of God's continue to work towards a positive resolution. The significant support on offer provides a pathway to financial stability and removes the need for the board to contemplate actions that could cause unnecessary distress for service users and their families. The HSE indicates that financial projections indicate that the St John of God Community Services will achieve a break-even position this year, as it has done every year since 2019, and we're therefore hopeful that a positive outcome can be achieved in the very near future.
That concludes Leader's questions for today and is referred to by the Taoiseach earlier.